Welcome to Sinkowitz, hosted by the fearless Linda Sinkowitz. She's syncing you up with the latest in election integrity, from breaking headlines to critical updates you won't hear anywhere else. With Linda, it's facts first as she leads the fight for one vote for one legal voter. Stay informed, stay empowered. Let's jump in.
Hi, I'm Linda Sinkowitz, founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. Now, you're watching a special edition. We love doing special editions. And one of my two guests is Debbie Ferris. She was on another special that we had done about Venezuela. Well, I am so happy to announce that I have Ana Diaz, and she is a former director of the National Council of Elections. She actually worked in Venezuela between 1979 and 2004. So what both of them are going to do is they're going to explain all the stuff for Venezuela with elections. And I'm happy to welcome them. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. And as we discuss what we're going to do is we're pretty much going to turn this over to the two of you so you can get all the information out there that you wanted to. What first we want to talk about is how the election system is set up in Venezuela and where in the hierarchy of the jobs that Ana, that you were. So we're going to start from there and then we'll let you go. Thank you.
Cada partido político tenía su representante en las distintas áreas del organismo.
Each political party had their representatives in the different entities that were part of the National Council.
Y cada uno velaba porque se cumplieran las reglas que estaban establecidas.
And these representatives were the ones that would oversee and ensure that the rules, the regulations were adhered to.
Cuando tú tienes la participación de los dos partidos, garantizas que no hay ventaja para uno o para otro.
When you have the participation of representatives that are there for both parties, Venezuela used to have two main parties. They had those representatives, and then that would ensure that there was a fairness to the whole process.
Exactamente. Y cuando había un conflicto, el órgano electoral llamaba a estos funcionarios que estaban en el proceso y teníamos que explicar qué es lo que había pasado y cuál era el problema que había habido en algún momento del proceso.
So if there were ever a conflict in the process, then the Electoral Council would call these representatives and both sides had to explain or justify or reconcile whatever had occurred. So it was a mutual agreement.
Por ejemplo, en lo que es el registro electoral, que es el registro de electores, cuando se hacía una depuración, los partidos políticos estaban pendientes de que esa depuración se hiciera y se hiciera correctamente.
So, for example, if you were going to clean the voter rolls, both parties would ensure that their representatives were there to make sure that clean out or that updating of the voter roll was done with utmost integrity and security.
Por ejemplo, si tú ibas a sacar a alguien del registro electoral porque había fallecido, tenía que constar el acta de defunción de esa persona.
So, for example, if you were going to remove someone from the voter rolls because of a death, there had to be a certificate. There had to be reasons why that removal was going to take place.
Igualmente, si la persona se iba a mover de un condado a otro, también tenía que estar la solicitud de ese movimiento hecho por la persona.
So, or another example is when a person was going to move, if they moved from one state to another or from one county to another, there had to be something that showed that move was actually effective.
La responsabilidad de cada área del proceso, de las distintas, digamos, áreas operativas del Consejo, recaía en los funcionarios electorales.
And the operational, the operational process of all of these different procedures that were going to happen was relied on those representatives that were part of the council.
Entonces era muy difícil que dos partidos políticos se pusieran de acuerdo para hacer una trampa.
What all of this ensured is that because you had both political parties involved in these operations, it would be very hard for there to be any cheating or any subversion, because you'd have to have the agreement of both political parties.
Había una mayor participación de la ciudadanía.
And this also ensured that there was a larger or greater participation of the citizens themselves in the process.
Y el Consejo Nacional Electoral tenía operativos para determinar la veracidad de la existencia, por ejemplo, de los electores.
And then the National Council for Elections had operativos, que son como funcionarios.
Funcionarios.
They had representatives that would work to make sure that que estaban removiendo.
Sí.
That those removals were being done properly.
Algo que es muy importante, que es el registro electoral, las personas que tienen derecho a votar.
So another very important aspect is the voter rolls. And those are the people that are in the voter rolls are those that have the right to vote.
Esas personas, antes existían los registros con las direcciones de las personas.
The voter rolls would have the names of these persons, and they would have their addresses.
Los partidos políticos chequeaban si era verdad que esas personas vivían o no en esos sitios.
And the political parties were responsible. They would check to make sure that those people actually lived where their stated address was.
Después que el Consejo Nacional Electoral fue tomado por el socialismo, por la gente de Hugo Chávez, eso fue eliminado.
Once the socialism came into Venezuela, that actual operation was eliminated.
Entonces,
Yeah, I do have a couple questions for you as we move forward. Did you have, before that time, did you have mail-in ballots? And was it just an election day or was it an election week? I mean, how often, how long was your election?
Okay, so the elections are conducted on one day of national.
un solo día para votar nacional, todo el mundo el mismo día.
Everybody would vote the same day, and it was a national day of voting.
Esto es muy importante porque es una votación presencial.
And this is very important because the vote is actually in person. You have to be there.
La persona tenía que presentarse, identificarse con su cédula de identidad, que aquí vendría siendo el ID.
And the way it would take place is the person shows up to the voting centers and they had to identify themselves using their, in Venezuela, they have something that's called a cédula. And it's not a driver's license. It's above a driver's license in terms of identifying you. So it's a national number that you are given, and it's unique to you, and you have to present that credential.
El elector pasaba un cubículo y sin que hubiera otra persona presente, votaba.
And so the citizen, the elector, would go into a private cubicle. There was no one else there because in Venezuela, the vote has to be secret. And then they would do their voting.
Después ese voto iba para una urna.
Afterwards, that vote is taken into an urn.
Al final del proceso electoral se hacía el escrutinio.
At the end of the electoral process, it was revised.
El escrutinio se hacía un acta y se dejaba constancia de la votación, cuántas personas habían acudido y cómo había sido la repartición, los votos.
So in that center, what they would do is at the end of the day, they would collect the votes. They would count them. You would have what it's called an acta. It's a manifest of how many people had voted and where those votes were allocated.
Pero todo eso cambió en el año 2004.
All of that changed in 2004.
Porque lo primero que hizo este sistema fue apropiarse del organismo electoral.
What happened after 2004, when Chavez was once in power, is that the first thing that was done by his government was take over this electoral council, which I might want to add, before, even though you had the two political parties that were participating, it was an independent entity from the government. Now it became ¿verdad? Era un órgano independiente.
Era un órgano totalmente independiente.
Yeah, it was independent, and now it was now umbrella under the regime.
Entonces, ellos lo primero que hicieron fue, a nivel de directiva de autoridades, nombrar ellos los 5 miembros.
So then what they did is, remember, the council was formed, originally it was 5 independent, the board. Now the Chavez regime appointed those 5 board members.
Ok, después, como eso no le dio resultado, cambiaron a ellos tomar 3 y dejarle 2 a la oposición.
That did not work out for them. ¿Por qué no les funcionó?
Porque no pudieron hacer las elecciones del 2000. En el año 2000 hubo un desastre electoral porque se trataron de hacer las elecciones totales, que era presidente, gobernadores, y eso no se pudo hacer porque se había tomado el consejo con personas sin experiencia y totalmente del partido político de Hugo Chávez.
So what happened was, when Chavez came into power, they nominated their cronies to be those 5 members, but these were people that were not and did not have any experience, didn't have a trajectory in this particular area of civil service. So there was no experience. So when in 2000, the elections were failed. They weren't able to get elections done. And so then the new technique was to put appointees, but 2 of one party and 3 of the other party.
Porque entonces las decisiones en los órganos electorales se toman por mayoría simple.
Because then the decisions to any decision making would have been done by simple majority.
Entonces, en el año 2003, ellos escogieron 3 personas de Hugo Chávez y 2 personas de la oposición.
And what they did is they did 3 people that were from Chavez and 2 people from the opposition.
Y entonces cambiaron del sistema manual al sistema automatizado.
This is going to be very interesting to you, because then at this point was when there was a change from a manual counting, a manual system that would, with people, personnel, to automated systems.
Y empezaron a cambiar todas las leyes, todas las reglas, para ellos entonces poder, durante estos 27 años, controlar la voluntad del pueblo venezolano.
And then that is when, after that, all the rules, all the norms were changed, resulting in the control of the vote of the Venezuelan citizens. And that is how they stayed in power for 27 years.
I was going to say, so you went from having a system that was near perfect for people to be able to vote, proving who they were with a national ID card, one day in-person voting, no electronic machines, no mail-in ballots, and an independent of the 5 independent people that would oversee this on the council. So you said once the socialism came in, when Chavez was appointed,
let me add, the socialism was voted in. He was voted in.
Okay. So he was voted in, and it's after he was voted in that all these other changes started to come about, with having the 3 appointed from one party and 2 from the other party.
Yes.
Having electronic machines, which we all know can be easily manipulated.
Yes.
It seems like the stuff started getting fixed for the election.
It was fixed. Yes.
Okay. So
how you go down this, that's how you end up where Venezuela is today.
Okay. And that was 27 years ago. So it was in 2000 is when the socialism was voted in. Was that the year?
¿Cuándo fue que votaron fue elegido Chávez?
Chávez fue elegido en 1998
Chavez was elected in 1998.
y,
Oh,
iba,
okay.
y su su periodo era de 5 años.
He had a 5-year term.
Lo que pasa es que una vez que él gana, hizo una nueva constitución.
What happened is once he was elected, he reformed the Constitution.
Y entonces cambió las reglas del juego totalmente.
And he changed the rules of the game.
Él hace la primera toma del organismo electoral en el año 2000.
He takes over the Electoral Council in 2000, 2 years later.
Y entonces se dieron unos cambios dentro del organismo. No pudieron hacer las elecciones en ese 2000, tuvieron que posponerlas.
And so when they take over with his elements, this is where the inexperience and just political appointees get appointed in 2000. And then they weren't able to conduct the national elections that were due that year. It was like a mess.
A partir del año 2000, todos los procesos electorales en Venezuela tuvieron una connotación de fraude.
And then from 2000 on, all Venezuelans' electoral procedures are tinged with fraud.
Wow. Wow. So you can actually trace it back to exactly where it happened, right after the socialism was put into your country when you were extremely affluent at the time, and to where it is now. I mean, it's just extraordinary. Well, we're going to go to a quick break and we'll be right back.
At Fight Voter Fraud, we work to ensure every legal vote is counted, and no unlawful vote ever diminishes the voice of we the people. We're fighting for you in courtrooms and communities nationwide to protect transparency, accountability, and fairness in every election. Our mission is simple: one vote for one legal voter. This is our country. This is our vote. Let's protect it together.
Hi, I'm Linda Sinkowitz. I'm the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. I'm very excited to announce Operation Verify Voters 2026. This is where everyone can get involved. Every single person can get involved in helping make sure we have transparent and clean elections. The most important thing is cleaning the voter rolls. Who knows better than you on your street? You know when people have sold their homes. You know when people moved. You know when other people have passed away. Those are people we need to make sure are no longer on the voter rolls. And it's really easy to do. We can help you. What we're going to be doing is setting up training sessions, which you sign up for, and we will walk you through the process. It's simple, it's easy, and everyone can get involved. So you're going to go to fightvoterfraud.org or scan the QR code, and it'll bring you right to our Operation Verify Voters 2026. And our goal is to get every single state involved in this initiative. Everyone can make a difference. Thank you. Hi, and welcome back to Sinkowitz. I'm Linda Sinkowitz. This is a special, very, very special episode on Venezuela. And what you had been listening to are my two guests, Ana Diaz, who was with the National Council in Venezuela back a number of years ago, as she was explaining. And we also have Debbie Ferris, who is doing the interpreting for this. We want to thank her again for all of this. So we're going to jump right back into this, and welcome again, Ana and Debbie, and I will let you take it from here.
Ok, Ana, vamos a hablar de hasta dónde tú llegaste en Venezuela y entonces por qué te saliste.
Ok, yo trabajé en el Consejo Nacional Electoral hasta el año 2004.
But Ana worked in the National Council for Elections till 2004.
Que fue el año donde se hizo el referéndum revocatorio.
¿cómo se dice revocatorio?
Revoke, o sea,
Revo-
para quitar.
That was the year that there was a national referendum that would revoke the
La presidencia.
the presidency.
Ese procedimiento comenzaba con la recolección de firmas para poderlo intentar.
And to do that referendum, the first part of that process is to collect signatures to show that this is something that the country wants to do.
Y entonces se había hecho un fraude con las firmas para que no se diera el referéndum revocatorio.
So there was a fraud in the collection of these signatures so that the referendum to revoke would not occur.
Y yo descubrí ese fraude
And she discovered that fraud
y empecé a denunciarlo.
and she started to make it known.
El que para entonces, en ese momento, era miembro del Consejo Nacional Electoral es Jorge Rodríguez, que es el presidente de la Asamblea Nacional ahora, en este momento.
So a fellow named Jorge Rodríguez, ¿el qué era?
Era uno de los miembros del Consejo, era el presidente de la Comisión Nacional, era miembro rector del Consejo Nacional Electoral.
So Jorge Rodríguez was a member of the national, and he was, it's like the dean, one of the deans or one of the top figures of this national council.
Que él hoy es el presidente de la Asamblea
And
Nacional.
he today is the president of the National Assembly, but we have to, no hemos explicado lo que es
Okay.
eso.
Ok, él quería, como yo era director general,
Uh-huh.
él quería que yo anulara unas firmas.
He requested Ana to annul a number of signatures.
Y yo me negué porque esas firmas eran válidas.
And she refused to do so because those were valid signatures.
Entonces, a mí me votó del Consejo Nacional Electoral por negarme a invalidar la firma.
And because of the fact that she refused to invalidate these signatures, then she was fired or thrown out of the National Electoral Council.
Y después de 25 años de servicio ininterrumpidos,
After 25 years of uninterrupted service,
yo recibí una carta del presidente del Consejo Nacional Electoral
she receives a letter from the president of the National Electoral Council.
diciendo que prescindía de mis servicios,
Prescindir que
o sea que ya no quería mis servicios,
And that letter indicated that they no longer needed her services
porque ya no confiaba en mí.
because they no longer had could rely on her. They could not confianza. ¿Cómo se dice?
Belief, o sea,
They had no more belief in her
después de ser un funcionario de 25 años de carrera.
after having a quarter of a century as a civil servant.
So, in other words, because you wouldn't go along with the fraud that you uncovered and refused to nullify signatures that you believed to have been accurate, they had to get rid of you.
Básicamente porque tú no rehusaste a invalidar, entonces te tuvieron que votar.
Exactamente. Por enfrentar el fraude.
Because she went head on with a fraud. Y después de eso, ¿cuánto te faltaba para jubilarte?
2 meses.
And to this, she was 2 months away. I mean, she had been there for 25 years. She was 2 months away from her retirement.
Yo tengo una anécdota con Jorge Rodríguez porque él a otras personas le dijo que a mí había que eliminarme porque no se conocía mi precio.
Okay, so, and just to clarify for the audience, Jorge Rodríguez is right now the president of the National Assembly. Let's just say that would be something equivalent to like the Speaker of the House or the the Speaker of the House or the Senate Majority Leader, something similar to that in position. And one of the anecdotes that Ana talks about, what was said about her, is that she needed to be eliminated because she did not have a price.
Porque yo había puesto, en lugar de firmar la firma, en lugar de invalidar las planillas, había puesto mi cargo prácticamente en el aire.
What this effectively shows is that rather than invalidating legitimate signatures, Ana was willing to put her tenure on the line.
Yo perdí mi jubilación y mis prestaciones sociales.
Doing that, she lost her retirement and her all the bonuses and everything, all the rights as a civil servant that she had.
Jorge Rodríguez pensó que yo iba a anular las planillas para que poderme jubilar del organismo.
And he thought that she would acquiesce to this because having been only 2 months away from her retirement, he figured that she would not put that at risk, and she did.
Y ahora, con todo lo que está pasando y gracias al presidente Donald Trump,
and now with everything that has occurred in Venezuela and thanks to President Donald Trump,
yo creo que le voy a poder decir cara a cara a Jorge Rodríguez
she thinks that she will be able to tell Jorge Rodríguez face to face
que él debió eliminarme.
that he should have, bueno, cuando tú dices eliminar,
O sea, no era eliminarme, esa es la palabra, o sea, no dijo otra, eliminar.
well, she's going to tell him that he should have eliminated her. And I'm asking her, what does that eliminating mean? And she just says, eliminating.
Porque han pasado tantos años y sin embargo hemos seguido en esta lucha para reconquistar la democracia en Venezuela.
And despite all of the years that have passed, Ana and her colleagues have stood strong and are still in the fight to reclaim the country that they know existed.
Oh my God. That is, I mean, incredible. You are a true heroine for the Venezuelan people.
She
Honestly, what you were able to do in standing up, knowing that your life was on the line, your 25 years of dedication and losing, I guess, equivalent to your pension and everything else.
Her pension.
So where did you go? Obviously, if they wanted you eliminated, you headed out of Venezuela at that time?
¿Qué pasó después de todo eso?
Yo salí de Venezuela,
She left Venezuela.
pero nunca he perdido el contacto.
She's never lost her contact with Venezuela.
Participé en muchas estrategias para develar el fraude.
She has participated in many strategies to reveal the fraud.
Y bueno, y sigo aquí y ahorita muy contenta con todo lo que está haciendo la administración del presidente Trump.
And she lives here in the U.S. She's very happy with what has been done with President Trump's administration. And I'm going to add, I know that Ana has also been an advocate for election security in many other countries. ¿Qué países?
¿En qué países he estado? Estaba en Guatemala,
She's been in Guatemala,
en Ecuador,
Ecuador,
en España,
Spain, Chile,
no, en Nicaragua, por encima.
Nicaragua a little bit. She has great stories about what happened to her in Ecuador.
Y en el año 2020 estuve aquí en Estados Unidos muy pendiente de lo que estaba pasando porque conocía de primera mano el tema de Smartmatic.
And in 2020 here for those elections, she was extremely vigilant as what was happening because she knows firsthand what Smartmatic is capable of doing. And so we saw the results of 2020.
Unbelievable. And I am so proud of you for what you have done again for your country. And I'm really hoping we can get the word out that you would definitely be someone who could help Venezuela as they move forward now to again have secure elections, since you were involved in that from the very beginning. So hopefully they'll reach out to you, the administration, either here or the new Venezuelan administration, as things move forward and how all that stuff shakes out. I'm not really sure at this point. But you need to be involved.
I want to make a personal pitch for Ana because there is no one that I know that understands better electoral processes, procedures, not only for Venezuela, but for the United States. What she can explain about having when we were in Venezuela, we would learn our vote was for everybody. It was secret. It was universal, voto secreto, universal, y ¿cuál era?
Igualitario.
Yeah, so the understanding of how to have a process with integrity, she has it. And so she can be a resource not only for Venezuela, obviously that's where her heart is, but for this country as well.
Yo tengo una definición muy novedosa en cuanto a qué es el fraude electoral.
She has a very innovative definition of what is an electoral fraud.
Fraude electoral es todo lo que se hace o se deja de hacer
Electoral fraud is everything that you do or that you do not do
antes, durante o después del proceso electoral
before, during, or after the electoral process
para tergiversar, cambiar, modificar
to subvert, to change, or to modify
la voluntad del elector.
the will of the people.
¿Por qué esta definición es de esa forma?
Why has she defined it this way?
Porque cuando tú dejas de hacer algo que tienes que hacer, puedes cometer fraude.
Because when you avoid or stop doing something that you must be doing, you are opening the possibility for fraud.
Mucha gente ha pensado que el fraude se comete solamente en el momento en que te emites el voto.
A lot of people think that the fraud occurs at the moment of voting.
Pero eso no es así. El fraude comienza desde mucho antes.
Fraud begins, that's not the case. The fraud begins many steps before.
Por ejemplo, cuando haces encuestas falsas.
For example, when you do you do polling, but it's under false premises.
Para después cubrir y darle apariencia a un resultado.
And when you do this false polling and you have false results, the reason you're doing that is because then you're giving veracity to false results. In other words, you're sustaining a result that's not true because you say, oh, the polls say, indicated that this candidate was going to win.
Sí, el fraude es algo que se comete, es un ecosistema desde antes de que se haga el proceso electoral y hasta después del proceso electoral.
Yeah, what fraud encompasses is an ecosystem that goes many times before the elections and after the elections.
El problema es que ahorita las muchas legislaciones no lo toman como fraude, sino como ilegalidades.
And the problem is that a lot of legislation doesn't take fraud as a, ¿cómo dijiste?
Ilegalidad, es algo ilegal, irregular.
They say something, it's an irregularity, but they don't consider it a crime.
Entonces, no es lo mismo hablar de algo ilegal, o sea, un pequeño error, a decir que hay un fraude.
And there's a difference between alleging that it's a small mistake than to naming it a fraud. So there you go, Linda.
Wow. Like I said, you definitely need to be involved, not only here in the United States, again, with election integrity, but also with Venezuela. Now, do you see Venezuela actually coming with free and fair elections again?
¿Tú crees que Venezuela puede lograr elecciones libres y con integridad?
Mira, en Venezuela sí se pueden hacer elecciones libres, pero no ahorita, porque nosotros tenemos un problema muy grave y es que Hugo Chávez le entregó a Fidel Castro el sistema de identidad venezolano.
Okay, déjame explicar eso. Okay. She believes obviously that this can happen, but not yet, not right now. And I have some background on this. What happened, even though Hugo Chávez and Fidel Castro are dead, during their lifetimes, there was Venezuela handed over to Cuba the ability to basically fabricate Venezuelan citizens. In other words, there is a system in Venezuela to get the cédula, what we call the national identity card. Cuba took over that system, and so you can have elements that were never citizens or that do not follow the rules required to become a citizen, that you can make them become citizens. You basically can create citizens.
Ok, y en la década entre el 2003 y el 2011,
And in the decades of 2003 to 2011,
se hizo un incremento del registro electoral de 5 millones de electores.
there was an increase in the in the voter rolls of 5 million people.
El profesor Genaro Mosquera,
There's a professor, his name is Genaro Mosquera,
junto a unas universidades, o sea, trabajó con una
collected
universidad,
or worked with several universities.
y hicieron un estudio y descubrieron
They did a study and they discovered
que estos 5 millones de personas
that these 5 million people
nunca habían estudiado,
had never studied.
nunca habían cotizado al Seguro Social,
They were never registered as students. They had never had a social security.
o sea que eran electores virtuales, no existían realmente.
These were virtual electors. They really did not exist as a physical person.
It's basically what we call ghost voters here in the United States. The same thing where people who don't exist all of the sudden are put onto the voter rolls and actually vote. So the same thing has happened with that. I find it really fascinating that Cuba was the one who took over your Venezuelan identity system as well. I mean, all this stuff that's going on in the last couple of decades, not only within Venezuela, but also even in the United States with all the issues that people are finally acknowledging that has gone on. Again, just throwing in a little statistic, Wisconsin has 7 million people on the voter rolls, but there's only 4.2 million people over the age of 18 in that entire state, and not all of them are voting. I mean, so we see the same type of numbers. So in other words, Venezuela basically is going to have to start over from scratch, making sure that your national identity number actually exists with a person who is from Venezuela. So in other words, throw out the whole system and everybody start all over again in order to have your free and fair elections. So before we go, is there anything else that you wanted to tell the public about your experiences?
¿Hay alguna otra cosa que quieres transmitir de tus experiencias?
Mira, yo confío en las personas, yo creo que somos capaces de hacer bien las cosas. Tenemos una oportunidad de mejorar las cosas en Venezuela, tenemos oportunidad de revisar las cosas en Venezuela, y es posible que en un tiempo las elecciones en Venezuela sean libres y auténticas.
So she really believes in the capacity of the Venezuelans to fix all of these problems. They have to be fixed, but she feels that it is possible to clean those voter rolls. There are teams I know from our conversations that have that capability. It just needs to be done. And hopefully soon, then Venezuela can be fixed and there can be clean elections in Venezuela.
Well, I want to thank the two of you for coming on and telling us what has gone on in Venezuela over the last 27 years, actually longer since you were there with the elections. But thank you again, Ana Diaz and Debbie Ferris, for coming on. We really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda.
I want to thank everyone for watching Cinkowitz. This is just an incredible special that we have just done. So I hope all of you, after you've watched this, send it out to your family, friends, and anyone you want to educate on what happened in Venezuela because of socialism. And also look at Ana Diaz, as I do now, as a hero for the Venezuelan people. She stood up for her principles, she stood up for her country, and sacrificed so much. So thank you again for watching our special on Cinkowitz, and we'll see you next time.